Do you know when the best time to be a buyer is? Or do you know when the best time to be a seller is? Well, this is Dean Odell with Seven Gables Real Estate. We are just coming out of the holiday market. We're into the winter market, and I am going to show you when and why is the best time to be a buyer or seller. Let's get started with the slides. Okay, well, here we are on January 23rd, and this is a little history for you. So you can see in Orange County, when we come into this time of year, this is the 3-year average you're seeing from 23 to 25 with homes placed on the market. And you'll notice that the number one time that people choose to put their house on the market is in May, and the number 10 time is January, the number 8 time is February, and in March it starts to get a little bit better, right? Now, if you look at what percentage of homes are placed on the market, you'll see that roughly between April and July, it's about 10% every month. So those are the heavy listing months, right? So if you look at the numbers, you can see how that stacks up, but it's kind of more important to just kind of focus on the percentages, right? Like, when are people actually listing their homes? You can see in November and December, those are very slow listing months. So then the question becomes, well, is that a good time to be a buyer, or is that a good time to be a seller? Well, let's look at the next slide. Now we're starting this Orange County winter market, which is going to go until about mid-March, and then it'll turn into a spring market. So let's look at what happened in previous years. The inventory rise of listings in 2025 was 24%. Look at what the demand rise was, 69%. So if I'm a seller and I look at that, I'd say, wait a minute, my inventory that I'm competing with is only going up 24%, but my demand for buyers is coming up 69%. The expected marketing time during that time period is dropping during a winter market. So if you look at that, you can see how that's been true for every single year, except for 2023. That was our off year, guys. That was like the least amount of inventory ever to have hit the market. And you could still see, even so, that demand just went crazy, up 67%, and expected marketing time dropped by 40. So in all instances, the best time to be a seller is really coming out of that holiday market into the winter market, and I'll explain why more later in this show. So let's go to our other slides, which is where we are starting the year here today, which is 3,062 homes that are on the market. You could see where that orange line began. That was our last podcast 2 weeks ago, and you can see this sharp incline. And you can also see that it's up from last year. We have almost 10% more homes that have hit the market in the last couple of weeks than in previous years. So you can also see we're still far below that 3-year average, almost 50% lower than that 3-year average. So that was all pre-COVID, and we'll take a look at how that stacked up against demand. Well, here again is a demand chart, and you'll see the last couple of weeks, demand's been pretty flat, and we really didn't get that punch up that we start to get. Could have been because of the way the holidays were this year. You know, I think we had Thursday holidays, if I remember correctly. So it's almost like the whole world took 2 to 3 weeks off, it seemed like. So we're going to have to see what the next one looks like. But this is normally what's going to happen to demand. It just shoots straight up. You can see last year was the red line. You'd see what happened there, and in previous years. And then that green line is the 3-year average prior to COVID. Now, if you look at the expected marketing time today, it's 101 days. And if you look at that orange dot, you could see what's unusual about that is that expected marketing time actually shot way up from a couple of weeks ago. So we had a very, very slow couple of weeks. So people were either in vacation mode, not paying attention, or things have changed somehow that the data isn't indicating over time yet. But I think this is just a blip, the slowing market, because what doesn't make sense is during this time, what's happened since September, as rates have dropped 100 basis points since September, people have 10% more purchasing power than they did. Prices were flat last year mostly. So people are better off going into this year than they were last year. They've got more inventory to choose from. They're right now in a market that's slowing. You could see where we were last year at this time, 84 days. So we're almost a little more than 2 weeks slower. And you could see where the 3-year average charts, but I think in the next show, the next 2 weeks, this could change quite a bit because having boots on the ground like we do and talking to buyers and sellers every day, we do not feel that this market is slow right now. And these charts are a couple of weeks behind what we actually experience out in the marketplace. Looking at it by price breakdown, you can see where we are last year versus this year. And we're at that time of year where things are probably going to speed up like we've talked about, but you can see that the market is pretty well balanced or a slight seller's market all the way up to 2 million bucks. And then we have a slight buyer's market over 2 million bucks and a deep buyer's market over $4 million. And you can freeze this chart and take a look at all the ways this is laid out in the columns and the calculations behind it. But you get down to a $6 million plus range, you can see it's like 7% of the inventory, only 2% of the demand, right? So you got 3.5 homes for every buyer there. So we'll have to see how that changes, but you can see it's still faster than last year in the higher end. But these numbers change really rapidly at the beginning of the year because the numbers are going from almost nothing to something, right, as we speed up. So let's keep our eye out on that. And then my advice for buyers and sellers, we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so it's January 23rd. This is pretty quick Tustin Talks. We are just getting rolling for the year. We're going out on a lot of listing appointments, talking to a lot of sellers right now. I know other agents are doing the same and sharing some information with some of the other top agents in the area, and everybody seems to be very busy right now with listing appointments. So things are going to happen here pretty quick. So if you're a buyer, you better be locked and loaded. Let's get you all set up with your lender, have everything done so that you're in a position to jump on things, because what's going to happen is inventory will continue to build all the way up till May, but so will buyer demand. So right now is your best time as a buyer because you have more supply per buyer right now than you normally have in a spring summer market. So more to choose from than you will have between spring and summer. That's why it's still a good time to be a buyer. Plus, you don't know where rates are going to be then. We know they're down 100 basis points now. Sellers, good time to be a seller, right? We already showed you why. You've got all these buyers that are left over from Thanksgiving, Christmas time that didn't buy. You've got the new ones that come in after the first of the year. So it's time for you guys to get locked and loaded. Give us a call. Let's get those houses ready. Let's get them prepped for you. If we need to, we can stage them, we can paint them, we can carpet them, we can do almost anything. We've got a great process. We've got people that have done this hundreds of times that are on our team prepping these homes. And it's just a nice, real smooth, hassle-free process with little or no expense up front to you. We can design commission structures all kinds of different ways. If you need money up front, if you don't need money up front, we do it all. Totally flexible. So give us a call. We'd love to talk to you, whether you're a buyer or seller, and let's get you moved in 2026. We know there's a lot of people that have been hanging out in houses because they're in love with their interest rates, but they're not in love with their houses anymore. And rates have finally come down. And for a lot of people, the difference is starting to make sense. So give us a call. We'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.